Begin today the Gemara on Tzadik Aleph Amud Beis, 3 lines up from the bottom of the Amud. Amar Rav Yudah Amar Rav Kol Amineya Halacha Mipi Talmud, one that holds back of teaching a halacha to a student. Ki'ilu Goizlai Minachlas Aveisav. It's like he's stealing from him the inheritance of his forefathers. Shenema, the pasuk says, Teira Tziva Lanu Moshe Meirasha Kehilas Yaakov. So what does it mean when it says that the Teira is a Meirasha? Meirasha hi l'chol Yisrael mishesh yismei breishis. The Torah is a Yerusha for every single Yid from the beginning of creation. So that lashon of shesh yismei breishis is interesting. It doesn't say it's a Yerusha from our forefathers, from Avram or from Matan Torah. Rashi says the reason it says shesh yismei breishis is because breishis bara lekim, the whole world is created b'shvil HaTorah, b'shvil Yisrael. So from the beginning of creation, the whole existence of a Yid and Torah, which is what the world is created for, is that the Yid should fulfill Torah, and it's his Torah to fulfill. Amar Rav Chana bar Bizna, Amar Rav Shimon Chasida, Kol Amineya Halacha Mipi Talmud. One that holds back of teaching Torah to a student. Afilu Ubrin should be mei imoy or imon mekal l'naisai. Even a fetus in the mother's womb will curse him. Shenema, the pasuk says, Meineya bar yikvuhu la'oim. So what does this pasuk mean? Ve'ein la'oim elo ubrin. The term la'oim that it says here refers to a fetus. Shenema u'la'oim mil'oim yamatz, when Rivka was pregnant with Yaakov and Esav. It uses this term la'oim. And ve'ein kava, when it says Meineya bar, so the Gemara will explain that it refers to one that holds back Torah. So yikvu la'oim, so the term yikvu, ve'en kava ela klala. The term kava means to curse. Shenema ma ekoiv lekabekel, and it says there by Bilam. And ve'en bar ela Torah. When it says meneya bar, one holds back the grain, the food. What food are we talking about? Torah. Shenema, as the pasuk says, nashku bar pen yanaf. So the term over there in the pasuk nashku bar pen yanaf is talking about Torah, that you should have the weapon of bar, which is Torah, pen yanaf, so that the Eibusha shouldn't get angry at you. That a person that holds back from teaching Torah, he becomes pierced with holes like a sieve. Ksiv hacha, because here the pasuk says yikvuhu la'oim. So here the Gemara darshans the word yikvuhu differently. That it doesn't mean a curse, but it means ksiv hasam vayikav chor bedalsai, and he made a hole in his door. So vayikav means to pierce a hole. And V'amar Abaya said ki uchle de katzri. He becomes like this utensil that's used by the launderers, that has full of holes in it. Now, if he does teach Torah to his students, what is his reward? Will merit blessings like by Yosef, Shenemar, Uvracha, Leroish Mashber. Bracha to the head of the Mashber. What does Mashber mean? The one that provides and gives. Ve'ei Mashber ele Yosef. Shenemar ve'Yosef hu ashalat ala aretz. He was the ruler in the land of Mitzrayim, and hu amashber l'chol ha'aretz, and he provided for everybody food. So it means not only begashmias, but also when a teacher that teaches Torah and he provides the food of Torah to his students, he gets the brachas of Yosef. Amar Rav Sheishes kol ha'malamed Torah b'olam hazeh. One that teaches Torah in olam hazeh zeiche u'malamda l'olam haba. He'll be zeiche and he'll teach Torah also in olam haba. Shenema, the pasuk says umarve gam hu yeireh. Umarve means one that satiates others with Torah, or another pshat, Umarve means Meire, he teaches. So Gamu Yaira, he'll continue teaching in Olam Haba as well. Okay, so the Gemara returns now to the sugya here, which is discussing sources and details about Tchiyas HaMeisim. Amar Rave, so Rave said, Minayin l'Tchiyas HaMeisim and Torah. What's the source of Tchiyas HaMeisim and a pasuk in the Torah? Shanam, the pasuk says, in the bracha of Yaakov, Yechi Ruven v'al Yamos. Yechi Ruven, is this in the bracha? No, sorry, it's a bracha of Moshe and Parshas V'zeisa bracha. So when it says Yechi Ruven v'al Yamas, what does it mean? Yechi Ruven b'olam hazeh, that he should live in this world. V'al Yamas, and he will not die, means lo'olam haba. The double lashon refers to that he won't die in olam haba. Whether it refers to Ruven himself or it refers to Shevet Ruven, but the double lashon includes olam haba in the time of Tchiyas HaMeisim. Ravina says the source of Tchiyas HaMeisim is
said that because Reuven had the Aveira.
True, yeah, and a Chanami. That's what, yes, that's right. Correct. Ravina says, Mehacha. The source for Tchiyas HaMeisim is in this pasuk where it says, V'rabim mi yishene admas afar, and many of those that are buried in the ground, yakitzu. They will get up, yakitzu eile l'chaye olam. They will get up for everlasting life. And ve'ele and others l'charpais l'deroin olam. They will get up and they will be disgraced and forever. Referring to the Rishayim. This is the pasuk that's the source of Tchias HaMeisim. So as the Rishonim and the Mefarshim point out, this pasuk that the Gemara is bringing here is actually the clearest source of all the psukim that it brings for Tchias HaMeisim. It's no hint, it's no remes, it says very clearly, Rabim Yisheni Atmes Afi Yakitzu. The reason the Gemara brings all the other psukim, all other remazim, is because if the minim, a person will claim that this pasuk is just a mashal, it doesn't mean literally. So then the Gemara brings other sources as well. But if you read this pasuk Pshutai, this is the pasuk where it says in Daniel, it speaks there about Mashiach and about Olam Haba. It says clearly Tchias HaMeisim. Rav Ashi Amar Mehacha, also a pasuk in Daniel, Va'ata, and you leich lekates, go to the end of times, v'tanuach, and you will rest, v'tamid legerolcha, and it will be to your lot, lekates hayamin. The end, lekates hayamin, the simple taich would be to the end of days, but Rashi actually taiches that it's lekates hayamin, that it means in the end of times when the right hand of Hashem will be revealed again. Heishav Yemina Yachir, that in the time of Galus, the kayach of the right arm of Hashem, Kavayachal, is not revealed, and lost of it will be revealed again. Rabbi Lazar says, Kol Parnis, Shemanigas Etzibur Benachas, a leader of people that is leading his people calmly and pleasantly. Zayche Manhigim Noilam Haba. He'll merit and lead them in Noilam Haba as well. Shenem, as the pasuk says, Kimirachemim Yenahagim, that he leads them with compassion. Mabuei Mayim Yenalem, and on the flow of water he will lead them also, and that lashon refers to Lasad Lavai. Rabbi Lazar also said, this is here bringing other statements from Rabbi Lazar. Gedayla Deya Shenitna Ben Shtei Oisius. Deya, knowledge or awareness, is very great because it's said in the pasuk between two letters. Now the two letters that it's saying here refers actually to two names of Hashem. Rashi says the names of Hashem. The name of Hashem is a ois, it's a sign, it's a revelation of the Eibishter. Rashi brings from the lashon of the Gemara in Chagiga regarding the name Tzvois. Tzvois means ois, hu b'tzava delay, that the Eibishter is a ois, a sign. So here the word, the das, is something that's written in the pasuk between two names of Hashem. Shenema kikeil, and then it says deyos, and then avaya. So it says first keil, and then avaya, and in between it says deyos. So das is something which is very great because it's between two names of Hashem. So obviously the kind of das that we're talking about over here is das of the neshama and its understanding and connection to Hashem, especially the way it's explained in Tanya and in Chassidus that there's chachma bina, but then das is the ikar. Chachma and bina is the level of wisdom and comprehension, but the das is like the lashon of ha'adam yadas chava, when a person connects and it becomes real to him. That awareness and connection to the Eibishter and the level of das, that's Gedolah, that's very great, and it's between two names of Hashem. Rabbi Lazar said, Godel Mikdash, Shenitten Ben Shtei Eisius. Beis Mikdash is also written in the pasuk between two names of Hashem. That's called Eisius. Shenem, as the pasuk says, Pa'alta Hashem, Mikdash, and it says again Hashem, Kainu Yedecha. So it says Mikdash between two names of Hashem. So based on this, Rabbi Karchino asks, should we say that the Eibishter's revenge is also great? Shenitna ben shtei Eisius, that it's written in the pasuk between two letters, between two names of Hashem. D'chsiv Keil, then it says Nekamis Hashem, Keil Nekamis Efiya. So it says Nekamis between two names of Hashem as well. So why would we say that when the Eibishter takes revenge, that it's as great as building the Beis HaMikdash, or as great as having das in godliness? Why is Nekama rise to that level as well? On Malay, so Rabbi Lazar answered him, yet Lemilse Hachanami, for it's in its proper way, it's taka the case. Kedu as Ola explained, the Amma Ola said regarding Nekama, and Nekama doesn't only mean to take revenge of Rishayim or of the Goyim, that he said, Shtei Haifai is halalu lama. In the pasuk here, when it says Keil Nekamis, it says Keil Nekamis Hashem, Keil Nekamis Efiya. And then it says again in the pasuk the term of haifa regarding nekama. Now the continuation of the pasuk, but it says twice the lashon of haifa in the pasuk. It says a third time actually, but it says twice the lashon of haifia in the pasuk in relation to nekama. In the word haifa means Hashem appears. So what are these two expressions of the Hashem's appearance? Achas lemidas taiva. One is when it's in the positive for the good. And v'achas lemidas puranos, and one is for the negative, for punishing. So Rashi explains the term nekama doesn't just mean to take revenge, but it also means to pay back, to give back. And over here, in the good, it means that because the Yidden by Matan Torah said Nasa v'nishma, so therefore the Eibishter gives back to Yidden the pay for this, and that the Eibishter reveals himself to Yidden. That's the nekamas that it talks about when it says Keil nekamas Hashem, that the nekamas is between the two names of Hashem for the good. Then there's the nekama, which is the revenge that Hashem takes from Goyim. It's a different thing. That's the Midupuranis. And based on what we said before, so Rabbi Lazar also says, Kol adam sheyesh by deya, one that has the deya, proper day we're talking about here, in Hashem, Kila nivna beis hamikdash b'yama. It's like he built a beis hamikdash. Because Shazanit and Ben Shtei Asiyas, by Deya, it says that between the two names of Hashem, and Vazanit and Ben Shtei Asiyas. And by building the Beis HaMikdash, it also says it between the two names of Hashem. So this is the famous vart that it says regarding great tzaddikim, that for them there was no Chorban Beis HaMikdash. Because a great tzaddik that has the proper Deya and the Eibush there, so it's like he has the Beis HaMikdash built in his life. You see it right here in the Gemara. Rabbi Lazar said, Kol Adam, Sheyesh by Deya, one that has Deya, this Deya we're talking about here, L'soif mis Asher. In the end, he becomes rich. Shenema, the pasuk says, Ubedas chadarim yimlu kol hain yakar v'noim. That with das, the rooms will be filled with a great, pleasant and expensive treasure. Right, so some the Mefarshim here say that the mis Asher doesn't mean only physically and the begashmis, but it means beruchni, is that he becomes rich. His life becomes enriched when he has the proper das. Someone that does not have any deya, you're not allowed to have any mercy on him. That if it's a nation of people that are not binos, they don't have deya, so then you can't. Hashem does not have any rachmanis and no compassion upon them. The simple pshat of the Gemara is, you're speaking about someone that if you'll have rachmanis on him and you'll give him something, he's going to misuse it. He's going to not handle it properly. So there's no point in sharing and giving him if he's not going to treat it properly. That's why it says asal rachem olav. But there's the famous vart that the Rebbe Marash said that if Taira is saying about this individual asal rachem olav, that he fell so low and you're not allowed rachmanis on him, imagine how big the rachmanis on him is. Rabbi Lazar said, if you give your bread to one that does not have deya, you surim ba'an olav. So suffering will come upon you. Shanam, the pasuk says, Lach b'cha yasimu. You place your bread there, and mazer tachtecha ain't tfuna by it. There was no tfuna to this person that you gave your bread, and there'll be mazer tachtecha. What does the word mazer here mean? Ve'ein mazer el yisurim. The word mazer means pain, afflictions. Shanema vayar Ephraim es cholya v'Yehuda es mazayrei. So mazayrei is like cholya, which means an illness, and mazayrei means yisurim, pain and suffering. V'amar Rabbi Lazar kol adam she'ein by deya. Person that does not have deya, the save goyla. In the end, he ends up going into exile. Shanema, the pasuk says, l'chein gola ami. My people went into exile, mibli das, because he didn't have das. So again, we're talking over here about the ruchni is the gedas. And the person could learn and understand, but he doesn't connect. It doesn't make it real in his life. That's the real concept of das, the iskashras. So if he's lacking that level of connection, so then in the end, whatever he has in Torah does not remain with him, and he goes into galus. A home where the words of Torah are not heard in it, being studied by night, Eish achlasai. A fire will consume this home. Shanam, the pasuk says, Kol choshech tomul litzfunov techleyo eish. That in the time of darkness, and it's tomul litzfunov, meaning that the Torah is hidden there. It's not. There's no words of Torah that's being heard in the home. Techleyo eish loy nufach. That a fire that will be a very powerful fire, that you don't even have to blow the flames of the fire. Yera sarid ba'aloi. And that is because Yera sarid ba'aloi means that it's bad for the sarid in his tent. Who's the sarid that it's bad for in his tent, in his home? Ein sarid el talmud chacham. The sarid, which literally means the remnant, is a talmud chacham. And because it's bad for him, meaning there's no talmud chacham in his home, and therefore the fire will consume his home. Shanema, where do we see that sarid means a talmud chacham? Ubesridin masha Hashem kaira. The sridim, the remnant, is where Hashem calls out to them. The remnant refers to those Talmid Chachamim. Another thing Rabbi Lazar said, Kol she'einoi mahana Talmid Chacham or Talmidei Chachamim min chasav. One that does not give any benefit of hana to Talmidei Chachamim from his possessions, ein royes mibracha la'olam. He will not see any blessing in his money forever. Shanama, the pasuk says, ein sarid la'achloi, al kain la'yachol tuvai. That there's no sarid to eat from him, and we just explained what the sarid is. So then lo yachol tuva, he will not have any good. Now ein sarid el tamidei chachamim, as we brought the pasuk shrem v'sidnu Hashem kaira. Another thing, Rabbi Lazar said, the Gemara is bringing all these different statements, all from Rabbi Lazar. Some of them don't have necessarily a connection to what it says before, at least in the simple pshat. Another statement that Rabbi Lazar said, Kol she'ena mishayer pas al shulchanai, one that after he finishes eating the meal and he's benching, and he doesn't leave any bread on the table, he will not see a siman bracha forever. Shenem, as the pasuk says, ein sarid la'achloi. If there's no remnant of the food, al ken la'yachol tuvay, there won't be any good by him. There won't be a blessing by him. So here, the sarid means literally that when you bench, and this is actually a halacha that's brought in Shulchan Aruch, that when you bench, you don't clear off the table completely and then bench. You bench with the remnants of the food still on the table, and only then do you bench. And that's when you bench, that is. So the Gemara asks him this, but Rabbi Lazar himself actually said in a different place, one that leaves pieces of bread on his table by the end of the meal, it's like he's serving Avodah Zarah, and he brings the pasuk shulchan, those that prepare for God, which is an Avodah Zarah. It's the name of Avodah Zarah. They prepare a table for them. And they pour wine for the money, which is also another Avodah Zarah. So a person that's leaving over a table of food, who's he leaving it for? He's leaving it for Avodah Zarah. So the Gemara answers, Lo kashya. There's no contradiction here. If after a person finishes his meal, he then leaves a full bread or a full challah on the table, for who's he being left for? That's preparing for Avodah Zarah, and that's not allowed. But when you are leaving on the table remnants of the food, and the person is not leaving a full challah, but he's leaving food on the table, who's this being left for? It's being left for a poor person. If a poor person would want to come and eat, there's food left for him to come and join. Another thing Rabbi Lazar said, one that switches around his words, meaning he says a lie in such a way that it shouldn't even be noticeable, but he's saying a lie. So that's how Rashi attaches machlef b'dibura. He switches his words around that it shouldn't even be noticeable. It's like he's stirring Avodah Zarah. Why? Because Ksiv Hacha, in one pasuk it says, and this is by Yaakov, when Rivka tells him to go to his father Yitzchak instead of his brother Esav, and Yaakov says, "Vayisi be'einav kim misateya," I will be in his eyes like someone that's deceiving him. Ksiv Hasam, and then there's a pasuk by Avodah Zarah where it says, "Hevel ema ma'aseh tatum." It's nonsense and it's a deception. So you see that one that says words and he deceives others with this, it's like a ma'aseh tatum. It's like Avodah Zarah. Rabbi Lazar also said, "Kol mistakel be'erve," one that looks on erve by a woman, and an erve kashtoin and eres. So his keshes literally means his bow is taken back, but it refers to the koyach of his aver. In order to be able to give birth, the Eibusha takes away that koyach from him. So when it says mistakel be'erve, it either means literally, or Rashi says it means b'machshava. Shanema, the pasuk says, "Erya teyor kashtecha." That when one looks at erva, so then it will affect his keshes, the power of his koyach of the zera that comes out like a bow. Rabbi Lazar also said, "La'olam have a kaval v'kayim." A person should always be someone that's like on the quiet. He should be quiet, meaning he should be humble. The word kaval literally means dark, quiet, shuffle, and then he will exist. He will be not attract too much attention to himself. And Rab Zayde says, I'll bring you a source for this. Afana nami tanina. We also learned in a Braisa where it speaks about the halacha of coming a kayin that comes to inspect the home to see when it has a nega in it, that bias awful. If it's a dark home, you don't open up the window to allow the light to come in. Let us nigga to see the nega. When you have to come and inspect to see if there's a nega, if you can see the nega the way it is naturally without allowing any light in, so then you see the nega. Otherwise, if you don't see the nega, so you don't open the window to see the light. So the same thing is also regarding a person. That if a person is going to be a bagaive and very noisy and attracts a lot of attention to himself, so then he will shine a light on negative things about himself. But if a person is humble and quiet, so then he doesn't shine a light on those things. Shema Mina, that's a proof of this idea. So this is all the different statements that the Gemara here brought from Rabbi Lazar. Amar Rab Tavi, Amar Rab Yeshia. Mai d'chsiv. What's the meaning in the pasuk where it says sha'oil, which refers to when a person is buried, and va'oitzer rechem, and the channelway to the rechem, to the womb of a woman, and oretz, and the ground. Lo sveya mayim is never satisfied with the water that it has. So what it means simply in the pasuk here is that regarding sha'oil, regarding a beis hakvaris, it's never satisfied. There's always more that's being buried. And the same thing also in sha'oil. Oitzer Rechem refers to the relations, marital relations, and also the ground it's never satisfied. It's always more and more. But the question though is, why is the pasuk bringing these together? Why is it mentioning over here kvura, burying, and the rechem of a woman? So what it's coming to say is ma rechem, just like by the womb, machnes umaitzi. It takes in and it comes out. There's the zera that comes in and then it gives birth. A child comes out and is born. Afshoil, so too when it comes to the people that die and are buried, machnes, it takes in people in their burial. But umaitzi, and then it'll be maitzi by tchias hamesim. And nava haloi dvarim kavachimer. Then we can make the following kavachimer. Uma rechem shemachnisim boy b'chashoy. The rechem, the zera comes in quietly. But then matziim mimenu b'koyle koilis. And then the child is born and the child is crying with a loud sound, loud voice. So if so, when it comes to when a person is buried and he's buried with the crying of people that are there by the burial. And it did most definitely shemetziin mimenu b'kayle kailis. That when it will come the time of tchias hamesim, it'll be with kayle kailis. What's the kayle kailis the Gemara is talking about? So Rashi says yitaka b'shofar gadol, the sound of the great shofar when Mashiach comes. Mikan shuve, it's this pasuk which is an answer lo'emrin to those that say ain't tchias hamesim and atayra, that there's no source of tchias hamesim. And here you see in the pasuk that it's comparing the two sha'oil and oitzer rechem, that a levaya, a burial, and giving birth go together in the pasuk, because when a person is buried, you have to remember that this person will get up for tchias hamesim. Tana de Eliyahu, it was taught by Eliyahu. This is what Eliyahu Hanavi taught, and it was recorded then that tzaddikim, she'asla kadosh baruch hu lachyason, the tzaddikim that the Eibishter will be mechayim mesim, einon chayzerin la'afron. They will not return again to dust. They will not be buried again after they get up for tchias hamesim. Shenaba, the pasuk says, v'haya nisher b'tzion, and that those that will be left in Tzion, v'hanaisa b'Yerushalayim, and those that are in Yerushalayim, kadosh ya'amaloi, that it will be said on them that they are holy. Kol hakasav l'chaim b'Yerushalayim, that whoever it's written on him that he's in Yerushalayim, l'chaim b'Yerushalayim, that is, that he has life in Yerushalayim. This is by tchias hamesim. So there's the pasuk. So the Gemara darshans, ma kadosh lo'olam kayam, just like kadosh, which refers to the Eibusher that's holy, that is always. Afheim lo'olam kayamin. So too the tzaddikim that will get up by tchias hamesim will always be. Okay, now the pshat over here and what the Gemara is saying is, as we'll see. Okay, let's first see the continuation of the Gemara, and I'll tell you Rashi's pshat. Rashi has a unique pshat in this Gemara. Avim taimar, if you'll ask about this and you'll say, oisam shanim, those years, she'aseh the Kadosh Baruch Hu l'chadash ben eselameh, where the Eibush is going to renew, that is, the Eibush is going to renew his world. So Rashi here brings what the Gemara is going to say later here in this Pedic, and it says it also in other places, that there's going to be a period of 1,000 years that will be Chad Charov. The Chad Charov, after 6,000 years, it'll be a period, according to one opinion, it's 1,000 years, according to another opinion, it's 2,000 years, but it'll be a time period where the world will be desolate, not the way it exists today, and the Eibush will prepare the world for a completely new world. Now the question is, if these tzaddikim are getting up for tchias hamesim, so those tzaddikim that get up for tchias hamesim, where are they going to be in this time? Shenema, the pasuk says, "V'niskav Hashem levadei b'yomahu," that the Eibishter himself will be levadei in that time period, and that b'yomahu refers to this time period of 1,000 years. But the Eibishter, one day is 1,000 years. So these tzaddikim that you say that get up for tchias hamesim and will not be buried again, where will they be? So the answer is, no, tzaddikim ayin oisim. What do they do? HaKadosh Baruch Hu oiselem knafayim k'nesharim. The Eibusher will give them wings like eagles, and v'shatan al pnei hamayim, and they will float, or they will hover above the water. Shenemar al kain lo'nira b'hamir aretz. They will not be fearful when the world will be changed. B'mayit harim, when all the mountains will collapse, b'lev yamim, into the water. That's where they will exist, the Talmidei Chachamim, or the tzaddikim, that is, that get up for tchias hamesim. B'shem ha'toyim yesh lehem tzar. You may think that at that time period it'll be painful for them. Talmud Laima, the pasuk says, no, b'koydei Hashem yachlifu koyach yalo evek hanesharim yerutzu v'lo yigo yelchu v'lo yafu. That they will have koyach and they will have no tzar at all, no pain, no even yegia at all. That's the time period of the tzaddikim. So now Rashi's pshat in this is that when it says in the Gemara that Einon Chayzerin La'afron, what it means is that these tzaddikim are going to get up for Tchias HaMeisim by Yemaisa Mashiach. But then there will be this time period of Chat Charov, and Rashi here says that these tzaddikim are going to pass away, but not Chayzerin La'afron. They're not going to be buried though. The Lashon of Rashi here is Habasar Miskayim Aleim, that their bodies will continue to exist, and here the Gemara says they'll have wings and they'll hover above the waters, until afterwards, when there'll be the new time period of Olam Haba and Tchias HaMeisim after Chat Charov. That's how Rashi explains this. But other Rishonim, the Ramban and other Rishonim say that the tzaddikim that will get up for Tchias HaMeisim will not pass away at all. Not like Rashi that they'll pass away, but they won't be buried. But they will not pass away ever. They'll continue to live Chayim Nitzchiyim. That's what most Rishonim here say about this. Now this period that the Gemara is talking about over here, this Chat Charov, this time period when Hashem will renew the world, we'll see later on in the Gemara about this, what exactly this means. Okay, let's continue. Now here, the Gemara asks on what it says here, that once tzaddikim get up for Tchias HaMeisim, they won't be buried again. Fragt the Gemara, but v'neilef mimeisim shehechya Yecheskel. Why can't we compare from what once happened before? There was once Tchias HaMeisim before, which the Gemara now is going to describe when this was. In the time of Yecheskel, he was Mechaya Meisim. And those people that he was Mechaya Meisim, they did pass away again. So the Gemara is asking, maybe it'll be the same also regarding Tchias HaMeisim Lasad Lave, that the tzaddikim that will get up at Tchias HaMeisim, or V'amich Kulam tzaddikim that will get up at Tchias HaMeisim, will pass away again. It's interesting that the Gemara asks this question and makes this comparison. Maybe by Yecheskel it's different. But like upon the Gemara asks that maybe if we can learn from there that even Lasad Lavai, the tzaddikim will pass away. And says the Gemara, Savala Kamanda Amar, reason we can't learn from Yecheskel is because he holds like the opinion that says that Be'emes Mashal Haya. This whole story that it says in the Nevuah of Yecheskel about the Tchias HaMeisim, it didn't really happen. It's all just a mashal. The Tanya, as we learned in the Braise, that the Tanoim argued about this. Those dead people that Yecheskel was Machaya, Amdu al Ragleim, they stood up on their feet, V'amru Shira, and they sang to the Eibishter, and then Umeisu, and they died. Now, Ma Shira Amru, what Shira did they say? Hashem Meim is B'tzedek, U'mechaye Berachmim. Hashem, with just, brings death, and Hashem brings life with mercy. Rabbi Shua says Shira Zu Amru. They said the following Shira. We say in davening, Hashem Meim is U'mechaye, and they said Meirid Sha'el, he brings people that passed away, and then they are buried, and Vayal, but then they get up again. Rabbi Yehuda says, Emes Mashal Haya. Emes, this was a mashal. Like Gemara explains what Rabbi Yehuda is saying. Amalei Rabbi Nechemia, im Emes, if he's saying that it describes the Tchias HaMeisim in the time of Yecheskel, he's saying that it's true, so lama mashal. Why is he saying afterwards that it's a mashal? If it's only a mashal, lama Emes, why is he saying Emes? Ella, like we said before, Be'emes Mashal Haya. That in his opinion, Rabbi Yehuda is saying that Be'emes, this whole Perek in Yecheskel that talks about Tchias HaMeisim, it's all just a mashal. Rabbi Eliezer ben Rosh Rav Yosei Glili Yaimeh Meisim Shehechi Yecheskel Alol Eretz Yisrael. Their Tchias HaMeisim was not in Eretz Yisrael; it was outside. These were Meisim that were outside of Eretz Yisrael. But then, when they got up for Tchias HaMeisim, they then went up to Eretz Yisrael. V'nasu Nashim, they got married. Vayilidu Banim, they gave birth, Banim, sons and daughters. And Amad Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira al Raglov. And then Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira got up on his feet. V'Amar, and he says, Ani mibnei b'nei. I am a descendant from these people that got up at Tchias HaMeisim by Yecheskel. And v'halalu tefillin she'niach li avi abba mehem. And this is the tefillin that my grandfather from these people from the Tchias HaMeisim of Yecheskel that he gave me. So therefore he's saying that it was kipshuta, it happened, it's not just a mashal. Okay, so now here the Gemara says, Uman ninu Meisim she'echi Yecheskel. What was the story? Who are these people that Yecheskel was Mechai Meisim? Amarav, so Rav says, Elu b'nei Ephraim, these are the children from the Shevet Ephraim, Shemonu Lekates, they had their calculation of when the end of time, when the Yidden is supposed to leave Mitzrayim, and V'to, they made a mistake. And they left early. They left 30 years early. Rashi here says that their cheshbon was that when it says 400 years will be the Gzeira, that Yidden are Mitzrayim, they counted 400 years from the Bris Ben Absarim itself. But really, the time to count was not from Bris Ben Absarim, but it's 30 years later from the time when Yitzchak is born, when Avraham Avinu was 100 years old. It's from then that you have to count 400 years. So they counted 30 years earlier, so therefore they left Mitzrayim before the time, before the Kates. And therefore the Eibishter brought them to be killed. Shanam, the pasuk says, the Bnei Ephraim.
How would they live in Mitzrayim?
They what?
How would they live in Mitzrayim?
That's a good question. Well, they left. Uvnei Ephraim Shuselach Uvarad Benoi V'Sachas Benoi Ve'el Second, Ve'el Benoi V'Sachas Benoi, and then V'Zavad Benoi V'Shuselach Benoi Ve'ezer Ve'el these are all the children of Bnei Ephraim. And then when after they left Mitzrayim, V'harogum Anshe Gas, people of Gas, on their way going out of Mitzrayim, they were on the way going to Eretz Yisrael, they were killed. V'harogum Anshe Gas Hanelodim Ba'aretz. That's who the Mason war that Yechezkel was Mechai Mason. Now it says there in the pasuk, Vayis Abel Ephraim Avim Yomim Rabim, that Ephraim mourned on them for what they did and that they died. And his brothers came to console him. It sounds like it's saying here that Ephraim was still alive at that time, which means that he lived for many, many years. He lived even to this time. That's one opinion, who these people, Rav's opinion, who they were, the ones that Yechezkel was Mechai Mason. Shmuel says, no, these were different people. These are people that were kaifer in Tchiyas HaMesim, and Shanema, because the pasuk says, "Vayeme Elai ben Adam ha'atzamis ha'ela kol beis Yisrael heima." Hine oimnim yavshu atzmisenu. These were the bones, and that these bones are said that they're totally dry. Va'avda tikvasenu, and we lose any hope. Nigzarnu lanu, there's a gzeira on us. So these were people that they said that after we die, we have no hope anymore, and they didn't believe in Tchiyas HaMesim. They were the ones that died, and then they were zecher to be revived. Tchiyas HaMesim. Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba Amar. Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba says, no, they were different people. Who were they? These were people that have no moisture of any mitzvah at all. The dry bones should hear the words of Hashem. So they were dry because they had no lachluchas of a mitzvah. Another opinion, Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha Amar, these are people in the time of the first place of Mikdash. They covered the Heichal with pictures of Shkatzim and Ramasim, Shanema, Va'avai, Ve'erev, Ve'hine, Kol, Tavnis, Remes, V'behema, Sheketz, V'chol, Gilule, Beis Yisrael, Mechuka, Alakir, Saviv, V'gaimer. And it says there that this lashon of Saviv, around and around, that they put all these pictures of Avodah Zarah and these not despicable things. Uksiv Hasam, there's another pasuk where it says, and this is by the Mason that got up, by Tchias HaMesim, V'havireni aleim Saviv, Saviv. And they brought me around them. So the same term that it says there, that they made these pictures around the Beis HaMikdash, it says here also Saviv, Saviv, so we know that it's those people. Another opinion, who these Mason were, Rabbi Yechanan Rama, Elu Mason shebebikas Dura. These are the ones that died in the valley of Dura. The Gemara here will bring now who exactly these people that died here is. The Mefarshim point out, according to some of the opinion that's brought here, that these Mason that Yechezkel was Machaya were people that were not tzaddikim at all. Especially according to the opinion that says that they had no lachluchas of a mitzvah and they didn't believe in Tchiyas HaMesim b'chlal. So it's a big pella that they were zeichet to Tchiyas HaMesim at that time. It's because it was a time period that Eden lost their complete hope in everything. And therefore the Eibishter wanted to show that even people that are so low, nevertheless, he's going to be Mechayim Mason them. Because Eden needed to have this at that time period in order to bring back their, they were very, very low and they were lost their hope.
Later they died.
Huh?
Later they died.
Yeah, but later they died. That's what the Gemara brought before. Yeah. This is the Haftarah of Shabbos Chol Hamoed Pesach. Yeah, which we won't be saying this year, right? There's no Shabbos Chol Hamoed Pesach this year. Okay, but this is the Haftarah for Shabbos Chol Hamoed Pesach. The Rebbe spoke about it by Riches once by a Fabrengen, and the pasuk that Rebbe focused on was the pasuk that's brought here. Ha'atzamis ha'yevesha is shimud var Hashem. What it says here is that not after they were revived and they were already doing mitzvahs, then shimud var Hashem. Even when they were still at Atzamis yevesha, shimud var Hashem, which means that you see Yidden that had no lachluchas of a mitzvah and they're so dry, so cold, you can speak to them the words of Dvar Hashem and you'll be guided in Tchiyas HaMesim. That's what you learn from this. Now, what's the story of here that it says about Bikas Dura, that there were the people that died in Bikas Dura? Vam Rabbi Yechanan said about this, Min Nahar Eshel ad Rabas Bikas Dura. This was a place in Bavel, in that area. What happened there? Shehegel Nebuchadnezzar Rosh Yisrael, when Nebuchadnezzar brought into exile the Yidden, Hayu ben Bachrim, they were young, the Bachrim, Shahayu Meganen es Achame b'Yofyan. They were so beautiful that even the sun, the beauty and the light of the sun, did not look beautiful when you looked at them. Now, Vahayu Kastia Israel Naisan, the women from Babel that are the Kastias, Babel is called the Kasdim, and they would look at these Bachrim and Vishaifai Zavais, and they would flow like a Zava because of the desire that they had for these men that was so beautiful. And Amru Labalein, they said this over to their husbands, Ubalein Lamelech, and their husbands gave this over to the king, to Nebuchadnezzar, and Tziva Melech V'Haraga. So the king commanded that they should all be killed. But even after they were killed, they were still, these women that saw them, still had this reaction of being Zavais. And Tziva Melech Urumasam. So then Nebuchadnezzar said even further that they should smash their bodies so they should not be seen at all. These were the ones that were killed through Nebuchadnezzar, and they were the ones that Yecheskel was then L'chaim Mesim. Now, in connection to this, the Gemara brings the story, and this is going to be a long continuation here about the story of Hananiah, Mishael, Va'azariah. This Bikas Dura was a place where Nebuchadnezzar put up a big tzelem, and he told all the Yidden to bow down to it. And Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah refused to bow down. And what happened then? He threw them into a kivshan eish, into a furnace of fire, and they survived. The next happened that they were not burnt. So Tan Rabbanon, we learned in the Braisa that B'shah shehipul Nebuchadnezzar Rashas Hananiah, Mishael, Va'azariah lekivshan eish. When Nebuchadnezzar threw Hananiah, Mishael, Va'azariah into this furnace of fire, Amalei HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yecheskel. The Eibusha says to Yecheskel, Leich v'achye meisim bikas dura. Go, at that same time period, he said, go and be Mechai Mesim to those people of Bikas Dura that Nebuchadnezzar killed there. In that same place where he hung up this big tzelem and he wanted all Yidden to bow down there. Now then, when he revived all these people that Nebuchadnezzar killed, Bo, Atzamais, so these people, these bones, they came, and they hit Nebuchadnezzar on his head, on his face. And Omar, he said, Mativan Shanelu, who are these? Amrulai Chavereyan Shal Elu Mechayim Mesim Bibikas Dura. So they said to him that this is the ones that got up from Tchias HaMesim from Bikas Dura. So after Nebuchadnezzar heard this, Pasach V'Amar, he began praising the Eibishter and he said, Asohi Kama Ravrivin, how great are the wonders of Hashem, V'tamamahohi Kama Takifin, and the Eibishter's actions, how powerful they are. Malchusei Malchus Olam, Hashem's kingdom is forever, V'Shultane, and his rulership is Amdar V'Dar for all future generations. So he began praising the Eibishter. Now, Omer Rabbi Yitzchak said about this, Yutzak Zav Resech L'Toich Piv Shaleser Rasha, there was boiling hot gold that was poured down into the mouth of this Rasha, that he should stop praising Hashem. Because She'il Male Ba Malach V'Satre Al Piv, if not for this that a Malach came and hit him on his mouth and stopped him from praising Hashem, he wanted to take away from the power of the praises that David HaMelech praised the Eibishter in Sefer Tehillim. So Rashi here says that if he would continue praising the Eibishter, so then the praises of David HaMelech in Sefer Tehillim would not be any more significant. The Eibishter would go after his praises. Big pellet. So there's a pshat about this, that it says that what it's saying over here, that the Malach stopped him, but it's not just I'm trying to say that the Malach tried to stop him. What it's saying is that when he praised the Eibishter, when he saw these great wonders and miracles, David HaMelech praised the Eibishter when it was good times and even when it was not good times. He always praised the Eibishter. But over here, by this Rosh Nebuchadnezzar, the Malach came and hit him and then wanted to see, are you going to praise the Eibishter even when it's not good times? And he didn't. So therefore that shows that David HaMelech's praise is on another level, completely. Now, regarding what happened to Hananiah, Mishael, Va'azariah, Tana Rabbanon, we learned in the Braise. This word, remember? Yeah? Okay. Oh, they bring it over there? Oh, very nice. Tana Rabbanon, we learned in the Braise. Shisha Nisim Nasu Ba'isei. There were 6 miracles that took place on that day. And Ve'elehein, these are the miracles. Tzaf HaKivshan. So first of all, they throw him into a furnace. Now this furnace of fire is usually like further down inside the ground. So it floated up, and also v'nifratz hakivshon, the walls around it were broken down, so everyone should see what happens to here, that they're not being burnt. And also v'humak saydai. One pshat is that the foundation of this got melted. So another pshat is that the sid, which means the lime that was there to burn them, it melted and it started flying out. And v'nepach tselem al panav, that tselem that he hung up in that bikas dura for everyone to bow down, it fell down on its face. And also v'nisrafu arba malchias, there were 4 kings that came there to witness this, that Hananiah, Mishael, Va'azariah will be burnt, but they got burnt. And also, those people that Nebuchadnezzar killed in that place of Bikas Dura, he was Machai Mesim then. Now, Bekulu Gemara, all these miracles that we're mentioning that happened, it's a tradition that this happened. But Va'aba Malchias, regarding the 4 kings that were there and they got burnt, Kra, Dichsiv, it's in a pasuk. The pasuk says, when Nebuchadnezzar Malka, Shalach Lemichna, she sent to gather and to bring here to this place when they were going to burn Mechanayim Shalva Azariah. So he sent to bring Lach Hashtartnaya, Signaya, Opachvasa, Izdragraya, Gedavraya, the Savraya, Taftaya, and V'chol Shutaynim Medinasa. These are all different expressions of ministers and so on that he brought to be there, of all the leaders of the countries. And they came. And the Ksiv, the pasuk then says that Isi, Gevrayin Yehudain, that is over here, these men, these Yiddish men, referring to, I believe it's referring to Chanaim, Mishal, V'Azariah, Uksiv, and it says, Umiskanchin, and they came and they gathered, Achdarpnayas, Agnayo, Pachvasa, V'Hadivrei, V'Hadavrei, Malka, and the kings that came, Chazin, Legevraya, Ilech, they came to see what happened over there with these men, and what ended up happening over there. The pasuk goes on to say that Loishalet Nure Bekashmeyan, the fire did not affect them, but instead it affected and it burned these 4 kings that came to see what happened over there. Now, okay, one more thing, we'll finish off the Atana debate of Eliezer ben Yaakov, Afilu b'shas hasakana. Even in a time when a person is in danger, a person should not change from his stature and the way he dresses and the way he is. And we learned this from Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. When they were brought and they were going to be burnt alive, so what does it say in the pasuk? Beidin Gavraya Elaine, that these men came and they kafsu Bisarvaleim, Patchayim, Vakarvalaseim, which means they were wearing their garments, one coat and another, whatever coats and whatever garments they were always wearing, they were wearing at this time as well. Even though they knew that they weren't in danger, they were going to be burned, but the person should not change and should not show any fear to any of his enemies that are trying to hurt him.